JoAnn, a film by Amelia Ritz. As a JD PhD candidate in Cornell University's Law and Psychology program, I study the circumstances that impact the reliability of confession evidence. The Beatrice 6 case is one of the most striking examples of how false confessions can lead to a miscarriage of justice. 6 people were falsely convicted of the rape and murder of 68-year-old Helen Wilson. James Dean, Kathy Gonzalez, Deborah Sheldon, Joseph White, Thomas Winslow, and JoAnn Taylor.
I remember the cop telling me I was wanted in connection with a homicide in Beatrice, Nebraska, and I asked him where the hell was Beatrice, Nebraska. He'd come to my cell a couple of times and told me that he knew that if I just relaxed and dreamed that things would come back to me, I would have the proper memories. I was just repressing everything.
Through multiple interrogations, Gage County sheriffs coerced JoAnn into believing that she had murdered Helen Wilson. I asked her what this process was like.
There was so much evidence, so-called evidence, piled so high that there was no reason for me to dispute it. I didn't see a way to dispute it. My mental health issues made me feel more naive because whatever you told me was fact. I didn't have the courage to stand up and say no. Looking back, I wish I had of. I'd never had any reason not to believe my psychologist or the cops because they'd always been there in the past as a positive in my life.
What did your psychologist say to you about this?
He said that even though I didn't remember everything correctly, that if I would just relax and it would come back to me in dreams. It might come back in full pieces, or it might come back fragmented. I was shown several pictures of the crime scene, which was their way of helping my memory, helping me remember different aspects that I couldn't technically remember for them.
What did you feel when you saw these pictures?
Disgust. Part of me kept saying I couldn't have done this, but yet here was all this evidence piling up, proving that I had. This was a 68-year-old woman. When I was arrested in North Carolina, my grandmother lived with me. My grandmother was in her 60s. So it was almost like my grandmother or someone's grandmother. But during the time from March until August, I had the deputy sheriff, as well as other law enforcement officials, as well as my psychiatrist, tell me that I was in on a murder charge. They could prove I had done it. They kept telling me they were going to give me the death penalty, make me the first female on death row. And that the sooner that I came clean and told them what they already knew, and give the family of the victim some closure, then things would be easier on me.
How many times were you threatened with the death penalty?
Several. I couldn't even put a number to it. It seemed like it was an almost all the time thing. There were several times when they'd just walk by my cell and make comments about the death penalty. Just an idle conversation. When Jerry DeWitt and his wife would serve meals, Jerry would remind me that I was on a murder charge and that I could get the death penalty and they were going to try to put me on death row. When I finally decided that me pleading guilty was the best out, my plea bargain was for no more than 15 years. I firmly believed I had been involved in this case. I was totally sure I had killed this woman. I could see me suffocating her just as clear as them telling me that I had put the weight of the pillow across her face and suffocated her while she was being raped.
In 1989, JoAnn pled guilty to second-degree murder. In 2008, the Beatrice 6 were exonerated by DNA. JoAnn served 19 years, 7 months, and 26 days in prison for a crime she did not commit.
The most important thing is don't take false confessions for granted. They do happen, and people's lives are destroyed by it. And to know that everybody has a breaking point, because I know anybody in society will say, oh, I'll never confess to anything I didn't do. But you don't know how much you can handle till you're in that position. You don't know how much hammering or badgering a person can emotionally and mentally take till you're actually in those shoes. I want to help others. I want to be an advocate somehow. Don't know how to be, but I'm going to find that.
In July 2014, 5 years after she first brought the suit, the Nebraska Supreme Court held the state liable for JoAnn's wrongful conviction, but she is still waiting to be compensated.